TIFU by having athlete's foot for 15 years. When I was 10 or 12 or something, the skin between my toes started cracking in the shower if I bent my toes too far forward, or sometimes when I was washing between my toes. My skin has always been sensitive and tends to get dry, so I just assumed it was really dry, put some lotion on it, and forgot about it. This happened many times, sometimes more frequently than others, but when I commented on it, my mom didn't make a big deal out of it, so I didn't either. As the years went by, I figured this was just my life. My skin is dry, things crack, hurts a little bit, I'm an adult, it's not a big deal, suck it up and put some lotion on it. Fast forward to a couple months ago. One of my toes itched really badly, and was a little bit purple. It swelled up, but didn't look that bad, and I figured, since it's kind of a pain to get an appointment with my doctor short notice, they only do same/next day appointments by phone, and only in the mornings, when I'm busy or working, I'd just see how it went. Really, it kind of looked and behaved like chilblains, which would check out since the house is pretty cold. I never wear socks, and I'm so used to it that I don't perceive the cold, and that would go away in a few weeks if I bathed it. So I wore socks for a month, the swelling went down, the itching went away. But then the skin on that toe started peeling a bit. It didn't really look bad, so I put some lotion on it and again chose to play the waiting game. Coincidentally, while doom scrolling, I was recommended on Reddit a post of someone whose toe webbing cracked just like mine. Everyone in the comments was saying it was athlete's foot. And I thought, it can't possibly be athlete's foot. I wash my feet. I don't go barefoot outside. I've had this for ages. All of the pictures online of athlete's foot look absolutely horrible and totally different from the minor cracks between my toes. But the idea lingered in my mind. I looked it up, you can just buy Lamisil cream at the store. It's not that expensive. It's not that expensive if it means this will never happen again. So I bought some, totally thinking I was wasting my time. I religiously put it on my dogs every evening. I dried in between my toes after I showered, even though I thought it was pointless and would just dry on its own. It honestly looked worse after I started. The skin between my toes peeled where it had cracked before. But it wasn't cracking that week. I can't really prove whether it was or wasn't athlete's foot, because I can't test whatever it was between my toes, but the skin between my toes hasn't cracked since. I don't know if I'm helping anyone here by saying this, but it's not normal for the skin between your toes to crack, and it's not useless to dry between your toes after you shower. TLDR, I had athlete's foot for 15 years and just thought it was dry/sensitive skin. Edit, why is this my most popular post? Loudly crying face. AITA for buzzing the hair I grew out to be my friend's maid of honor while she was on her honeymoon? 24F, like having short hair, I always have short hair. Anyway, my friend, 23F, got engaged and we were looking at hairstyles for her wedding. She had a vision board, not that she had called it that, that she had clearly already spent months if not years knowing her curating. All the hairstyles were long and similar with a few short ones like mine which she had clearly added last minute. I could tell by the way she talked she was less than enthusiastic about the short hairstyles despite trying to be, even her husband's hair is past his shoulders. So I told her I'd grow it out and get extensions. I was curious how it'd look long anyway. I first cut it when I was 9. For me it was always temporary, but as the wedding got pushed back 2 years, it got longer, down to about my armpit. While it was long I had fun with it, I learned braids and intricate styles. Anyway, the wedding happened at the end of February. I had the same beautiful updo as the other bridesmaids and I decided the experiment was great but I was going back into my comfort zone and buzzed it all off. I would have had no regrets if that was the end. I posted on Instagram a picture of my new hair and captioned it "Wedding over, hedgehog's back." I got a DM from a few people asking if my long hair was for the wedding. I mistook their concern for curiosity and told them yeah, my friend likes long hair. I saw her the next week and she was furious at me for telling people she was a controlling bridezilla over something that was my idea. She was unaware that I was keeping my hair long for her and thought I had genuinely just liked it. I cleared it up with people, but they don't believe me. They think she's pressured me into saying that. It's a mess and my friend isn't talking to me. Who's the arsehole here? What do I do? Deliberately outstaying my welcome on the beach with umbrella. Today I, 25M, was looking for a spot to chill out on the beach and read my book. The heat was real intense, so it wasn't possible to be sat in full sun, and shade was very hard to come by. Eventually I came across 3, maybe 4 trees evenly spaced out, 2 of which had deck chairs placed under. Now immediately I knew these chairs had been placed there by the nearby resort, and so I made the decision not to sit in them, but seeing as they were not on private land but on the public beach, I laid my towel down and sat beside them. An hour or so passed. I had been swimming, reading, and minding my own business when I knocked my bag over into the sand. At this point, I put my bag up on one of the chairs, seeing as in all this time I had remained undisturbed. Sure enough, minutes later, an old man, probably late 60s, comes over grumbling to himself and stares at me angrily, pointing to the deck chair. I removed my belongings and found myself apologizing, begrudgingly, given the manner in which I'd been consulted. The man continues to grumble and groan indistinctly as he moves the chair around, and I try to read my book. Just then his wife, I assume, joins him, and they both begin berating me in thick German/Austrian accents as to how I had the whole beach to choose from and decide to sit here. Now if I'd been asked respectfully, I would have just moved and gone about my day, but given the manner in which I was spoken to, I decided I'd stand my ground. Calmly, I told them they could also choose to sit anywhere along the beach. At which they grew even more animated. I told them I was doing no harm, sat on a public beach, at which point, the man started to shout at me, "You're crazy. You're crazy. You put your luggage on my chair." I calmly said I'd been here for an hour and it hadn't been an issue, at which point they snapped back that they'd been here longer. I still don't understand the logic in this. I simply put it to them that I didn't have an issue with the situation and went back to reading, and they both set down their belongings and stormed off into the sea, presumably waiting for me to leave. At this point I'd realized I was all but ready to go off in search of lunch anyway, until this delightful couple gave me the perfect reason to stay just a little longer. For half an hour I sat with my book, occasionally looking over to them as they swam around, glancing back at me to see if I'd gone. Eventually the man returned. I stayed sat with my head in my book as he moved his chair around me, deliberately hanging it over my head for a length of time. I didn't look up to see what he was trying to gain from this. I did, however, note him deliberately walking across my towel, as I was sat on it, and doing his absolute best to kick as much sand my way as possible. I said that was real kind of him, and that I thought with age you learn manners. I added that it was embarrassing for a man of his age to behave in such a way. As a result, I sat out for the best part of another half hour. At which point, his wife now looked like a dried prune, having tripled her wrinkles trying to avoid me by staying in the sea. I decided I'd finally move on to get some much-needed food, though not before one final flourish. I slowly gathered my things, making sure I wasn't about to leave anything behind, and with one great swoop, maybe a couple of extras for good measure, flicked all of the sand off of my towel straight over this great blubbering buffoon. He instantly grew red with rage. I pointed out to him that it was just the same sand he'd kicked at me. Sitting upright in his chair, he hastily grabbed a handful of sand and threw it toward me. Though he hadn't accounted for the fact that I'd taken time to note the direction of the wind. Quite beautifully, it all blew back in his face. I told him to have a nice day before strolling off down the beach and waving to his wife, still shriveling in the water, as I hear shouts of "Idiot! Idiot!" in the distance. Honestly, made my day. Smiley face. Edit, added age. Cut ex's internet off for the whole family after she cheated. My ex, 27F, and I, 27M, were together for over a year. I moved in pretty quickly, moving into the house she rented with her 2 kids, 5 and 8 years old. 6 months in, she cheated. Long story short, we stayed together. I moved out and got my own apartment. Because I already had my name set up for her internet and we were staying together, I just kept paying it. It wasn't expensive, but $30 she and her kids used for free. I had set up my TV in the living room along with my Xbox and iPad that I let the kids use. When I moved out, I never took back those items because the kids liked using them. Well, 6 months after the first affair, she cheated again. This time a week after our 1-year anniversary, and days before my birthday. With the same guy. She left me on read for hours when I asked if she had spent the night with him. Finally responding by sending me a shared notes app document saying yes she did and she's been having a great time. I felt all those typical feelings of hurt that I had felt before. anger, confusion, self-doubt, etc. I didn't respond for a few days. In one of those days, I realized the internet bill was due soon. So I pulled the app up and began poking around in the settings. I realized I could toggle the internet on/off remotely. Maybe only an hour of debating is when I decided to pull the trigger and disconnect it for them. You might think that's not a big deal, but I knew how reliant those devices were to getting the kids to cooperate or as a distraction/motivator when trying to get the kids to do anything really. The 8-year-old loved Minecraft and the 5-year-old loved the iPad. It was a great bargaining tool when getting them to clean or staying out of the way when cooking or cleaning. Great for times when we just needed an hour to ourselves to unwind. Or a way to bond with the kids and participate in what they were up to. These devices were a major help most days. I knew that by cutting the Wi-Fi, the kids would start throwing a fit and causing my ex's day to be more difficult. I didn't know if they'd realize immediately or if they would come home after a long day, just trying to relax and get nighttime routines going, and then be met with unexpected silence. That was about 9 months ago, so maybe I left some details out. It's not my proudest moment, but I don't regret it. AITA for calling out my wife after our dream Japan trip turned into a personal shopping service for her family? So Japan has been my dream destination as far as I, 36M, can remember. I grew up on Dragon Ball Z and then over time picked up interests in a lot of anime as well, and always saw Japan as this country living in 2040 while we're all lagging behind. I'm currently on a trip with my spouse, 35F, and her friends, 3 of them. Her closest friend adores her obviously and doesn't question how the itinerary has been panning out. The other 2 people are also nice enough to not call anything out from what I've been seeing. So basically my brother-in-law plus sister-in-law, very well-to-do, wanted a bunch of stuff from Japan. Whether my wife offered or imposed, I don't know. My wife's love language with her family is acts of servitude for sure, so going out of the way to get stuff for them usually flies. This time though, we've gone on a trip with a bunch of other friends and I just spent the entire day getting a turn card to visit this Onitsuka store in Ginza, for my brother-in-law, and then planning the rest of the day for all of us around this place so we could pick up the shoe. It's not such a hard custom job to do, they sew in 4 letters on each shoe. Being from India, it seems like something any basic tailor can do for us. We left around 10 in the morning and now it's 19.31, I'm sitting in store waiting for the thing. With my sister-in-law, she wanted in bag from a luxury brand in Japan, being great for second-hand high-quality stuff. We visited a number of stores from the day we landed to finally picking up one with the grade that fit what she was looking for. This meant going to different stores, calling her, showcasing the stuff to her on video call and then getting the yay or nay. Obviously they're well-to-do, so they'll pay us back for the items we sourced. We had to spend the entire day around this area that I finally asked the others to go back to the hotel and head to an area of anime and gaming. By the time we got free, just me and her, the area that I wanted to go to had closed. At this point, I told the others who'd reached the hotel to come meet us at a tower. Now after the pickup of the shoe, I told her that I'm gonna tell her family that this doesn't fly. And that I don't give a shit what they think when I say it, and I'm 100% will tell them. She then flipped it on me that how fucking dare can I call her family shit, I didn't, and that this is her family, she cares deeply about them and I have no right to say this to them. Am I the asshole? Or should I just confront them? Edits. 1. Yes, the itinerary was established, but it kept changing on the fly every time we saw a second-hand store or an Onitsuka store. So priorities were changing too quickly for my comfort. Trip is 10 days long too. 2 guys and 3 girls. Only 2 girls are in for the shopping at full steam, one of them does window shopping only. 3. We're Indian, and my wife isn't super independent, and culturally it'll get a lot of backlash from the family if I left her to go by myself. 4. Second time in Tokyo, had previously come for work, was a very broke young adult, so did all the sights on foot across the city and company per diem helped me try out a lot of the food before. There are food spots in the itinerary that we are trying to hit, but not all work out due to the constant pull from the BIL/Sale 5. Yes, have hit cultural spots, not yet museums since none of the others are interested, sticking around for the common good of the group to steer things to tourism. We'll add more edits for the queries I see. Final update 1. Thank you to the folks that reached out and gave suggestions of places I could head to out on my own to make my trip my fulfilling. 2. People attacking for me mentioning anime in Japan being in 2040 while being closer to 40. I don't know what to say. Grinning face with sweat. We all have our passions. Yes, there were more reasons than anime for Japan: food, Sakura season, or that grounded most flights heading west from India. And it doesn't matter what your age is, if you like something, go for it. 3. Today my wife wanted to head to a cafe, but I broke off and headed to a Kibera with the other dude. We went through watch shops, arcades, and bonded over gaming plus anime. Wife was pissed for an hour or two but came around once she joined up with us and saw that the Electric City is actually pretty cool. 4. Addressing this separately, 2040? Because I'm from India and we're still in a pretty terrible state, so seeing such a connected, technologically forward country is awesome. Like the maglev trains are still probably 50 or more years away for us. 5. Understand that this is pretty common scenario that plays out on trips with a lot of people sharing their experiences, and yes, I could have handled it better. When the trip started to revolve around their needs instead of us actually being tourists is when I snapped. I intend to set clear boundaries with the in-laws in the future, asking them to order stuff to our hotel only for pickup and not having us run around the country for them. AITA for asking my neighbors to not have their kids turn every slide in park into a slip-and slide? My husband and I took our daughter to the park in our neighborhood today. When we got there were two sets of adults having a picnic on the grass while their kids were playing. As we got closer, we noticed that the kids were in swim trunks and covering every slide in water and dish soap. Our daughter is 3 and the slide is her favorite activity. We go to this park every day. My husband and I watched as these older boys were going down these slides and then being launched into the wood chips at the bottom. We didn't want our daughter to get hurt or covered in water and dish soap, so we tried to block off at least one of the slides, and I made a few comments that I could try to dry it off, and one of the kids finally grabbed one of the towels to help, and I stood in front of that one until she was done playing. The parents did nothing. Just watched their kids take over the park and make it impossible for anyone that wanted to stay dry to play in that area. The kids even ran over to the parents to get more soap and water. We made comments about it being inconsiderate, but we were ignored and didn't want to start an argument in front of our daughter. We posted on the neighborhood Facebook and asked people to be more considerate or maybe take their kids to a splash pad or a rec center, but don't soak the whole park so no one else can enjoy it. Well, the response in the group has been unbelievably entitled with comments like, "Why didn't you let your kid just join in?" And "Sorry you didn't have a good experience, my boys have been cooped up and they had a blast." We are truly baffled by this response and feel like there should be some level of common courtesy among a public space with neighbors. Like, sorry, we don't want our 3-year-old getting soapy and launched into wood chips where she could probably get hurt. The entitlement coming from these people is blowing my mind. I would never imagine doing something like that. So AITA for telling my neighbors to not turn the public park into a slip and slide? Edit for more info. I said nothing to the kids. One considerate one saw me struggling to clean off one of the slides and offered me a towel. I said thank you. I don't know if they cleaned up, but I doubt they get all of the soap off all the stairs, bridges, and climbing equipment they also got soap on. I hope no one gets hurt. There were 6 slides in total, all covered in soap and water. We are one of 2 non-Mormon families in the neighborhood who are actively avoided and not invited to neighborhood activities. Update: I stopped by the park this morning to see if they cleaned it up, and nope. There is slimy grime all over the jungle gym/slides and would definitely become a serious hazard if it rained. TIFU by ruining a coworker's relationship. Obligatory. This didn't happen today, so I'm an amusement park kind of guy, but most of my friends either actively dislike them or don't like them enough to pay to go and like sit in traffic. I had this coworker, 30 SF. At the time I was 35M, who I wasn't like friends with but definitely pre-friends, and one day we're talking and she mentioned she also likes amusement parks. So I say we should go sometime, to which she says great. Can I bring my boyfriend? In retrospect, I think she didn't realize I wasn't asking her on a date. Parks are just less boring when you're with a friend, so I say sure, sounds great, and we make plans to meet at the park. Here's where the foo happens. She's cool and all, but her boyfriend? That dude was awesome. 5 minutes in, him and I are getting along like a house on fire. Turns out we have a lot of similar interests and we're just having a great time the way 2 dudes can immediately. So we're hanging out at the wave pool and we're trying to include her, but honestly the two of us had more in common than either one of us did with her, and she's giving the terse it's fine, and so eventually he's like, look, you're upset, and if I want to fix it, so can you tell me what's wrong? And she screams, I just spent the past 5 hours with my boyfriend and apparently his fucking soulmate, and here's where I really double down on the foo, she said that and I laughed. Which made Steve laugh. Which made her, and him, leave. Yeah, work was a tad awkward with her until I got transferred 3 months later, very normal in my job. She and Steve broke up about a month after my transfer. Which I know because I'm still in touch with him, and he actually couch crashed with us, my now wife and I, for a few weeks last year when he was waiting on his app to be ready. TLDR, coworker thought I was asking her on a date, so brought her BF on a hangout. Her BF and I ended up getting along better than they did, which led in part to them breaking up. TIFU by failing to treat my annual physical like a genie wish. Obligatory. The foo was a few weeks ago, but I just found out today. I'm trying to be more proactive with my health, so last month I finally scheduled an annual physical, which, as preventative care, is free, but if you mention any issues, it becomes a diagnostic appointment, and they bill it as a regular visit. I go in planning to be very careful about this. The nurse asks why I'm there, I say just the annual physical. The doctor asks why I'm there, I say just the annual physical. She asks if anything's been bothering me, and, careful not to trigger the genie clause, I say cheerfully, I'm saving all that for a regular office visit, I don't want to get hit with a bill. I then add that I want to be sure to get blood work done, since they skipped it last time and I usually come up anemic. When she asks if I'm looking for anything else specifically, I mention that I want to check electrolytes, since I'd been dizzy ever since taking up running, and are those included in the default blood work panel? She confirms that they are. She then recommends testing magnesium and thyroid levels as well, suggesting those might be another culprit. Oops. It's diagnostic now. And this is the real foo. I don't double check if those tests are also part of the physical's available panels, thinking at this point I've made it clear that I don't want anything extra, and she would mention it if these tests didn't count, right? Right? I get the blood work. I go home. And today I get a bill for $430 after insurance, $25 for the diagnostic visit, and the rest for the extra blood work. FMLTL, DR, failed at the final hurdle to specify that I only wanted the annual physical tests in my annual physical appointment. Got hit with a big bill. ETA, this was not my regular doctor. If you enjoyed these stories, hit subscribe for more.